So with today's practice, we weren't in pads, so we weren't on the field as long. I thought it was good work. There was a red zone emphasis, of course, to what we did. Overall, I was pleased. I thought it was fairly crisp. Just an update on Quinn Bailey. So there's two parts to the injury. He dislocated his ankle and he fractured his fibula, the smaller bone, a little further up. Next week, I don't have the day yet, but he'll have the ankle surgery. And there's probably a good chance they just leave the fibula and let it heal. But they'll look at that. But the main injury is the ankle. So he'll have that done next week. He was put on reserve injured. And then we signed the young offensive lineman we had out in camp from Colorado State, Oliver. Any questions?
You had a chance to talk to Quinn?
Yeah. So yesterday they took him to the hospital. They said it. And then when I spoke with him, he was at home. He sounded a little groggy but upbeat. And, very quickly he'll be in the building here rehabbing, and I think that'll be good when he's around his teammates.
On the quarterback front, you flipped the two guys out last year. Is that indicative at all of where you sort of stand? Yeah.
Look, it's not etched in stone. We talk about it at the beginning of the week. It's hard to rotate three through the first group. All three of them, I thought, had a good day today. We'll see how Saturday goes. Saturday, we're going to have a little bit more of a different type of practice. It's not going to be a scrimmage, but there's going to be like 3 phases, special teams mixed in, move the ball, if you will. And we haven't met on that relative to the reps in the rotation. And then Sunday, we'll map out the plan for the week leading up to Indianapolis. So that's kind of where we're at.
Sean, I imagine you don't spend a lot of time on the Hall of Fame game unless you're playing in it, but with the new kickoff rules, will you just take a peek at it or see how it's...
Yeah, we will. Everyone will, I'm sure, just to see. We'll probably just, I won't watch the game. I think it's tonight. It used to be on the weekend. So anyway, it's tonight. We'll get the film of it, and we'll look at it quickly. The officials were in last night. We had a meeting with them. We spent a lot of time with them on the 2 significant rule changes are the kickoff and then the hip drop tackle. Watched a lot of film with them. We have them out here. We'll have them out here. We had them today. We'll have them out here tomorrow. We'll have them out here Saturday. And I think it's really good for us. It's good for any team when you can get a full crew. One of our crews in the league working with the players, talking to them about why they threw a flag out here. So it's good to have the officials here.
Sean, with Innie and Lazarique, some of these gambling suspended players, the teams haven't welcomed them back. You have said you want to bring Innie back.
Yeah, I think, look, there's good news on his front. Everything in Minnesota was dropped, and then the other day, everything in Colorado. He had his conference call with the league office, and we fully anticipate him now joining us as soon as possible, and we're waiting on the league, but he's in great shape. We were really excited to hear that news, and so we anticipate we see that happening very soon, and that'll be an additional player for us, and we'll be glad to have him back. So good news on that front.
With him having to be away from the facility, how have you guys been able to monitor him?
So within the framework of that punishment, there's communication allowed from Ray. There's certain parts of the organization that can visit with him. And then, part of that is the onus on him staying in shape. But I know he's chomping at the bit to get back, and it sounds like it's going to happen very soon.
Sean, kind of a coaching philosophy question. How do you decide what you sort of address in the moment, mistake-wise, versus hey, we'll get into the room and we'll deal with that? Like, how do you? And is that something that evolves as you get longer?
Yeah, there's this saying, the highest level of mastery is simplicity, and as you do this long enough, only the expert, much is wasted. A lot of energy is wasted, and you become a little bit more particular at what you want to correct, and then you become a little wiser as to what maybe isn't important. So me in 06, I probably was addressing more, but the more and more you address with a player, then pretty soon you address nothing. So that decision as to what's important or what is something I can wait and catch them a little bit on film. But it's an interesting quote, and I've been around some really good coaches that may not say a thing after a rep, or may just say one thing. But I think you have to be careful about too much, and then with too much, there's nothing. And so that would be something that you get better at as you go.
What are the traits you look for in a good slot corner, and how have you seen McMillan show those?
Well, look, they have to be smart, and they end up playing the role somewhat of a linebacker, so they've got to be good in their run fits. They've got to be, generally speaking, someone we feel like that can be a pressure player. And I'd say the other thing is their short area quickness has to be an asset. And those would be a couple that stand out. Smart, quick, pressure player, good tackler.
How does he look during camp, too?
Good. He's extremely smart. He caught us on a pressure today, disguised it well. And we saw that a year ago when I kind of felt like he's one of those players that kind of took a step into his own last year, created a lot of turnovers. He's got really good football instincts, and I think that is a trait that's very important, because there are a lot of adjustments that take place for that player when the motion goes or leaves, and his fits in the run game are different than maybe the corners or even the safeties sometimes. So, you're looking for someone who's got high football IQ and good COD, someone that can tackle, and then of course you're going to play man-to-man. So how does he hold up when he's covering in the slot? All of those things.
Obviously not in pads today, but with a couple of days of film in pads, does this start the running back group? Has it tracked into the first couple days of contact? In terms of, what have you made of that?
Yeah, I like where look, I've said this. I think we're seeing great competition in the back end. I think we're seeing great competition at receiver. And I think we're seeing real good competition at the running back position. And, pick your player. We could talk about him. Jaleel's more confident. Javonte's down 10 pounds. He looks like a completely different player. Last year at this time, in fairness to him, he was recovering still inside of 8 months of an ACL. He's fully healthy now, and you can see it in his play. I can go through, all of those guys. The young back, Audric, has done well. Watson, we got back, and Beatty's another smart, more of a joker type player. But I'm pleased with where that room's at.
Have you seen a difference with Jaleel? He said he wanted to work on being a better pass catcher. Is that?
I've just seen a growth. Look, when you're undrafted, I think I can play here, and then you have some success. Yeah, I can play here, and then in year two, it's like, man, I expect to play well here. You can just feel that with him. Each day there's something we see. Made a catch over here and earlier, and he's really having a good camp. And again, he's still the first one on campus. He and then the 24-hour security guard who was here since midnight. So he's first, and then Jaleel second.
Running backs coach, what's the biggest transition from college to
I would say pass protection And then identification, the fronts and the pressure looks become a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult. So pass protection is one. And then I think ball security is one, because at this level, there's such an emphasis at taking the ball away. And then you begin to identify, what type of runner are you going to be? They're not all going to be the same. So I do think there's a change, and the first thing that comes to my mind is the protection.
Specific to Jaleel, he talked about it, and Joe Lombardi talked about how he had to grow in pass pro. So after a few days in pads, how has his technique manifested in pass?
Good. And look, this gets back to the discussion of Dulcich block and power. I don't want to be in a game where he's having to fit up 4 times on a linebacker rush, but he's going to have to periodically. We might be in 2-minute offense, and he's got to handle the pickup. And so there'll be a number of times where he's going to get a free release and he's going to be out. But it can't always be. In other words, we can't have that self-scout where when he's in, he's always out. Because they can then scheme that. But I do think he certainly understands his limitations relative to his frame. And then how do you take advantage of that? You want to take on the block at the line of scrimmage where the linemen are to your right and left. The deeper you take it on, the more of a two-way go the rusher has. But if you can take it on early, you kind of have a fence working for you. And he's a real smart player. Coming from a small school, he picks things up very quickly.
Sean, when you do have a younger team, how important is it to have someone like Sutton in the body?
Yeah, look, just pick a few of these guys, Singleton, Sutton. I can name a few veteran guys. There's always a mix, and that mix is healthy. And the most important thing I think you can provide a young player is the veteran who's in front of them. I use this example. My first NFL job in Philadelphia, Irving Fryer was one of the receivers, and he was so good at his practice habits and how he prepared that any new player, Troy Franklin, Bailey, that came into the program is watching Cortland prepare. And that can be a real plus, but it also can be a negative if you don't have that type of individual. We tend to model who we're following, and so I think he's clearly one of our leaders, and is really good for the younger players to see, what he's doing, what Tim's doing, Reynolds. We have a few veteran receivers, and it's real good when the younger players have that kind of bar to see relative to preparation. I think it helps a lot.